Hello again, everyone. Tonight, the topic's a little different, but it is one very close to my heart. And that is the topic of pagans that are in sobriety and the attitude that some people seem to still have toward them, and addressing that with, or from my perspective. Now, to start, the last couple of years it's been getting a little better. People are starting to understand that really it's none of your business why someone does or does not want to drink or partake of other things. That is entirely up to them. We are, we're at a point we understand your path is your own. Unless there is something that flat out says, do not do this thing, like, we don't break oaths, that kind of thing, then leave them alone. Okay? But, I want to address it from the standpoint of history, lore, etc. Okay. So, first of all, when we talk about pagans and drinking and all that stuff, yes, pagans do tend to like their drinks a little more so than others. But that's also because it is not a sin for us. We have not had it drilled in our heads that, we're going to go to hell for it. That being said, as much as we laugh and joke about pagan debauchery, drinking, and all that good fun stuff, historically even, we have to remember a lot of the records that we have from those experiences came from the Christians who came across these people who were pagan and were trying to write down the records to prove that we were bad, sinful people. So there's that possibility that it was tainted a little bit. You have to keep in mind these are the same people who wrote down the records and proof that witches ate babies. Okay? So there is that. Now, yes, there's plenty of examples of drinking and festivities in all kinds of history in almost every pagan path, but you also have to keep in mind that was usually around a celebration of some kind. For the most part, there were some that, their culture was just very much drink, screw. Okay? But again, even that was certain seasons where that was the thing. We have to look at the context of it. There's not actually a lot of proof and evidence that pagans in ancient cultures sat around just drinking and getting drunk all the time on a regular basis. And that is including, and could almost say especially, the case in the North. When you're in an environment where survival is important and the elements and creatures of nature itself may at any moment just come at you, it's not a good idea to be wasted. And Odin speaks all the time about wisdom and keeping your wits about you. And he includes drinking in that, which we'll get to. Now, that's something to keep in mind. Another thing is a lot of people, when they are trying to stay sober, alcoholic addicts come in all walks of life. Every culture, every religion. There would not be AA and NA and all the other A's, every country in the world, if it didn't also apply to every religion, because you have to remember, other places are not just Christian the way we tend to be here. So yes, anything that exists all around the world is a problem for every religion around the world. So we need to kind of drop that attitude of all religions, all faiths, all forms of pagan have to drink. But the problem comes in when we have people who will try to tell the people in sobriety that, you know, they need to still offer their alcohol to their gods. That we, you know, and again, especially in the heathen community, because we're all about the mead and the, you know, raise a horn. And again, that was usually during some kind of big feast. Yes, you had your drink, but the having fun and getting drunk part, that was literally your drink. Just like in some countries, it's standard to have a glass of wine or two with your dinner. It wasn't like we're just going to go get wasted on mead every single night. You also have to remember, mead was special. You didn't waste it. You know, it was a special thing. So it's not mandatory to include that. And I really don't know why people try to push that as a mandatory thing. Because, again, as we said with, you know, the history as it is, when it comes to ritual and offering and sacrifice, we have very little to go on as far as the everyday run-of-the-mill offerings may be. Yes, we have some records of, you know, sacrificing the calves and blood offerings and whatever. But almost every record we have that shows how an offering or ritual or whatever was done, almost every one of those was in celebration of a major event. It was either a big celebration of, yay, we defeated these guys, this is a victory celebration, praise the gods, it was a big deal, it was a holiday, it was something other than just a standard, this is my offering to you today because you're my God. We don't have much record on how that was handled. And truthfully, you were more likely to be drinking water or something like that back in the day than you were. We weren't sitting here literally with a glass of mead or wine in our hand every day, every time we had a drink of something. So we've got to get past the romanticized media version of what we are. Okay? So again, this is not typical everyday offering. So for your everyday home offering, that is special and private to you. That is between you and your God. Whichever one it is, whichever pantheon, I don't care. That offering is between you and them. So it doesn't matter what personally connects with you and them. That's between you. And no one has the right to tell you that you have to do it a certain way. You just don't. And even in holidays and, you know, special rituals, blocks, etc., even in that, if it is a personal, one-on-one, you doing the thing for you and your gods or your personal household, you do it your way. The only time you really have to worry about strictly following a certain thing, and really not even then, just is what it is if you are with a group some organized event where everyone has to be on the same page. And everyone has agreed to do it this particular way ahead of time. Otherwise, this is personal, this is you, this is your God. Don't let them tell you you are wrong. The other factor to keep in mind, especially for those who are against the whole, or not against, but those who try to shun people who are trying to stay sober and trying to keep alcohol and drugs, etc., out of their homes so they cannot offer it. Another thing to remember is people tend to give offerings that they themselves enjoy. Most people will not give an offering to the gods that they themselves would not touch, because it's somewhat rude to do so. Plus, it's not really much of an offering if it's not personal, something that means something to you. And in fact, some of you need to know that for some people, getting and staying sober is an offering and sacrifice to the gods for some people. It is literally their way of, I need to do this and I'm going to do it for my God so I can be a better person for them, etc. And it becomes a daily offering and sacrifice of, or what we would call a living offering. It is a daily thing as part of how they honor the gods, by being at their best self, which doesn't happen if they're in the bottom of alcoholism and addiction. You know. I said we talk about the war. So here it is. When we're talking about drinking, or again, anything, what have you, Havamal. Less good there lies than most believe in ale for mortal men. The more he drinks, the less does man of his mind the mastery hold. So already, seeing that it is okay, that it's not necessarily as good and great and needed as men tend to think it is. You know, one way of looking at that is like, yeah, the gods have their mead more frequently, but we're not them. We have other issues involved. I mean, skip over. Talks about being dead drunk, and it's the best of drinking if back one brings his wisdom with him home. Sorry. Odin's always been about keeping your wits about you. From the very beginning of the Havamal. As a matter of fact, this section here about the drinking is following the part where he's talking about always keeping your wits about you and being, you know, wise code of conduct. And this comes right after that section, so it all flows together. This is part of keeping your wits and keeping your mind sturdy. So we're not the same as the gods who are practically immortal. You know, we have human illnesses and human bodies that, you know, we can't be put up under the venom of a snake burning us for ages and ages and ages and break out of it and not die. Because we're not gods. Gods can be killed in Norse belief. They're not immortal per se, but they're more immortal than we are. And we are considered the mortals because we can die like that. So it's not good for us, in the sense that anything we do has to be done with care and thought and safety in mind. And later on, if you move over to, those were stanzas 12 and 14, and then in 19, he actually mentions, don't shun the drink, but do it sparingly, or do it with good measure. And some people will point that out as to why, the people trying to stay sober are weaklings or whatever gross true crap they want to throw at them. So this is where we get to the non-spiritual part, although it all goes together, and that is the science of the matter. Just like the book there said, the more you drink, the more you lose your ability to control your thoughts and what you're doing, how you're doing it. Your physical body becomes affected. You are being affected in so many ways the more you drink. Now, for a normal person, non-alcoholic or addict, you can do that, and then the next morning you're going to be like, yep, not going to do that no more. And you can hold off and not do it again or never do it again to that extreme. Or you can go and say, I'm having one, and you stop at one. Alcoholism and addiction is a disease. And no, this is not an opinion. This is not asking your opinion. This is literally written in the medical books as a disease since the 50s and 60s. Further back, it was just written a little differently so people can pretend it didn't exist. It's always been. It is a disease. It's a disease of the brain. Now, if you want to go look at an AA Big Book, they explain there that it's somewhat like an allergy. That's how they classified it at that time, in the 30s. It was very much like an allergy, where for some reason, normal people who don't have this disease or allergy can have a drink and be fine. People who have the allergy, for some reason, something in their body triggers their brain a sensation of craving that just goes. They don't control that. So those who try to push this, it's a matter of willpower. The matter of willpower for people trying to be sober is the willpower to not go and do it. When our brains tell us that this is what we need right now, that's the willpower. Because once that gets into the body, that allergy, disease, chemical reaction, whatever you want to call it, it takes effect, and there's no way to control the will. It is like you having a peanut allergy, and as much as it looks good and everyone's enjoying it, you know not to eat the peanut butter sandwich. That's your willpower. But if you eat the peanut butter sandwich, you cannot will yourself to keep your throat open. And that is the same with this. It is a physical disease. Why am I saying that? One, because it needs to be said. Two, part of what Odin is saying here is doing it sparingly, knowing where your cutoff point is. Alcoholics and addicts, we don't have a cutoff point. We don't. Our cutoff point is before we take it. Now, thank the gods, thank Loki. It's been 6.5 years since I've touched anything other than my damn nicotine, okay? You see me vaping and smoking. That's part of it. That's why. Because I don't do nothing else. Used to. And actually, it was part of these stanzas I'm reading that made me feel better about the situation when I was listening to, just like people still try to pull now, the crap about, oh, it's willpower and you're pagan, so you should be able to do this, and it's an insult to the gods if you're not strong enough to blah 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 blah. This is what gave me comfort. For even Odin to be like, no, you don't have to do that. You keep your wits about you. And further, because of his character and who he is, and I don't mean character as in book for those of you who take every, literally what I mean is his character as in who he is. He stands for wisdom. And part of wisdom is knowing what you can and cannot do. If you know you cannot safely have a drink or two and stop, smoke a little something and stop, then it is true wisdom for you to decide not to do that anymore. And it takes a lot of courage and wisdom to be able to tell yourself and admit to yourself and others that you can't do that. So there's no weakness in that. And again, your practice is personal to you. And what you do, if you are connecting to your gods in a way that is meaningful for you and you're not hurting anybody when you're doing it, more power to you. That's how it's supposed to work. And anyone who tries to say certain things have to be a specific way all the time, laid out in this whole design we don't have that really came along later by the people that we do not associate with, even though they wear our rooms. Let's put it that way. A lot of that came from them. We crap on other religions all the time for dogma. And yet when it comes to matters like this, you suddenly think it's okay to say, no, it has to be done this way. Oh, a blot means blood and it has to be this way. No, it meant sacrifice. Other people decide, well, yeah, they offered cows and things, but at that time, that was a sacrifice. Because a sacrifice is something you are letting go of yours, for the gods. Unless you are currently only able to raise your own meat, then that sacrifice is not really sacrificing anything of your own. Again, that's my opinion. It's a sacrifice if you yourself are giving up something. So if you weren't going to eat that cow or that goat or whatever, then you didn't sacrifice anything except for its life. And again, there is nothing that says we have to do things a certain way. And there's nothing that says we have to give them alcohol. There's nothing that says we have to do it on a certain day in a certain particular way with certain... No, we don't do that. Hell, again, you shit on people for dogma and then you want to try to speak for the gods and tell people they're too weak and that their offerings are not deserving. That's the catcher. You're, again, speaking for the gods. It's not up to you what they're going to accept. I'm pretty sure if we offer something and they don't like it, they'll find a way to let us know. I've seen it happen. I've had it happen. There's other things they'll like we wouldn't expect them to like. Just got a little nudge. Maybe I should try it. Hell, That's how half the Locans found out Loki liked chocolate. We didn't talk to each other about it. Just all of a sudden, we're sitting there with chocolate and, oh, that looks good. You know, like, it's a personal thing. So why do you even care? But again, if you want to get into the lore and the real heathen way, the real heathen way, according to Odin, hell, we're not even bringing the Odin into this one at all. According to Odin himself, you gotta know where your cutoff point is. And you've gotta know the best way to keep your wits about you and your mind sturdy enough to not screw up and say things you shouldn't, to not get yourself in harm's way. You've got to know. Part of wisdom is knowing where your point is, that you're losing your mental faculties more than you should, and stop it. And if you are an alcoholic, addict, whatever, and you know that any of it, you can't stop at the cutoff point. You know you never stop. No matter how hard you try, then there is no shame in admitting that. There is no shame in staying sober. There is no shame whatsoever in keeping that in your practice as well. And anyone who tells you otherwise is full of it. Because they don't know. They don't understand. So, that's where I'm wanting to bring this out. And what got it started, I will say, is because the holidays are here. The whole holiday season, people are having parties and festivities, and there's drinking and whatever, and having a good time. And for some of us, we have to have a good time without that. And for some people, especially those who are early on in their sobriety, for those who are just considering it, you know, it is sometimes difficult. It is sometimes difficult for people who have been sober for years, just because your mental state's a little off that year, you know? And that's okay. You keep your wits about you. You do what you gotta do, and you pick up the phone, you call a friend. If you don't have sober friends, find some. If you are not an alcoholic addict type person and you have a friend who is trying to stay sober, even if they're not alcoholic addict, they just prefer to stay sober, whatever the reason, if someone's trying to stay sober and you try to encourage them to go ahead and do it, you're a piece of shit. You are harming them. You are encouraging them to do something bad for them. And you acting like you know better than them what they need. So, have a safe and happy whatever you celebrate. New Year is coming. Have a good one. And I'm going to throw it out there. If you need an ear, you can reach me. I will have my email in the description here of the video. You can reach out. I'm here. Whatever it is, whether it's an ear, someone to listen to, need some guidance, whatever the case. Or, again, if it's about the sober thing, hey, hit me up for that too. I can help. I'll help you find what you need. Okay? So, that's it for tonight. Again, I know it's a little weird. um, topic. It's not talked about much, but I felt it was needed, and I just gotta do what I'm told. So, y'all have a good night. I will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.